2 o'clock. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Ocean Shores Planning Commission meeting to order. January 28th, 2025, we're in the Ocean Shores Library on Point Brown Avenue in Ocean Shores, Washington. Let's do a roll call. Commissioner Bricker.
Here.
Commissioner Ward. Here. Commissioner Bees.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
There.
Commissioner Lawless is here. Can I get a motion for approval of the meeting agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our regular City of Ocean Shores Planning Commission meeting that was held on the 14th of January? Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, public communication. Anyone in the room that has a thought that share? Yes, please.
Well, I see on your agenda that you're going to be talking about strategic planning,
That's correct.
and I noticed that there's 4 sidewalks, basic sidewalks. 3 of them are used by the public, and they're good sidewalks. Because I can tell, but just by traveling around town and watching it, that they're being used, and that's the one going to the grade school, one going from the library to the roundabout, and the third one is going from the library to the Ocean Lake Drive.
Mhm.
But the one that goes from Ocean Lake Drive to Taurus is hardly used. So if you're gonna build a sidewalk, the next one, I think you should do some strategic planning on where it should be put, where we get the most service by citizens and tourists.
Sidewalks. Now, along the sidewalks, discussion, I know that the city is looking at sidewalks in the corridor.
Okay.
So, I asked that question, of my meeting with the mayor last week about sidewalks, and they're looking at sidewalks in the corridor.
Well, I noticed that the most used by pedestrians is from the Shell station on to the where the old restaurant was, the Moby Dick. That's where I see people walking
Walking.
on the street more than, and tourists too.
Now, one of the things that we did with biking and walking is it's our #1 proposal, and I'm going to mention it again tonight at council, is extending this Point Brown multi-use lane from out here to the roundabout.
I see.
So that's already on our plan, biking and walking. It's also been included in the Parks Department comprehensive
Are
plan.
you talking from the library to the roundabout?
Yes,
Doesn't it already go to the roundabout?
no, the multi-use trail that's right out here by the hole on the golf course,
Yeah,
extending that to the roundabout.
but you got it on this side of the street already, don't you?
There are sidewalks on this side of the street, but the non-motorized multi-trail ends, and people have to come over here.
Yeah,
Go
but
north.
across the street.
Right.
And there's a stoplight.
Correct. And then we're looking to expand that. It's all city property, all the way to the roundabout.
That's the old Point Brown, the rest of the old Point Brown Avenue.
Multi-use trail, yes, that's correct. Anybody else? Jane, anything for us today?
Nope, just good afternoon.
Afternoon. Okay. I wanted to give an update on signs. We've had that on our agenda. We submitted our recommendations to the mayor. It went off to legal. Legal has come back and said, do not touch the municipal code on signs. So there we have it, feedback from legal.
Didn't they love?
Thorne, they didn't say. It was a very brief conversation. Legal said, don't touch it. So that pretty much, I said, okay, I'll give that update and we'll move on. So strategic planning 2025 is the next item on the agenda. Now, we did this in 2024 and came up with a group of ideas, some of which we made progress on, others we haven't. So I'd like to go around the room and get ideas from commissioners on what we should put on our strategic plan that we should work on this year. Dan, you want to start?
I could start. I would like to reach out to Marshall and Roy Sims and Sean Beebe and give us a list if you have any codes that are tough to enforce and anything we could do to help. Also, I went through the comprehensive plan and looked at things that it said. And under section 3.2, policy 7, it said unify the downtown commercial area through construction of sidewalks, unified design, landscape, and signage. And the other thing was, I think we need to bring back up dark skies and get education on that to the people. I think that's gone by the wayside. You drive around at night and you see a lot of places just flooded with light. The other thing that I would like to see us maybe look at is trapping. And we have on Overlake, we have beavers that are chewing up people's properties. And a code says we can't trap.
Right.
But RCW 77-36030 has trapping or killing wildlife, threatening human safety or causing property damage, limitation conditions and the rules for them.
What was that RCW again?
RCW 77.36.030.
030?
And there's got to be something in there. The code, our code does have for human safety, but it doesn't have for property damage. And I think we should have something for property damage.
Okay. Okay.
That was it.
And if you could send me or repeat what you had for the 3.2, your second item.
Okay.
You said codes that are tough with Marshall and Roy and Mr. Beebe.
Yeah.
That we can help with. What was the second one?
Well, the second one is unify the downtown commercial area through the construction of sidewalks, unified design, landscape, and signage.
Sidewalks. I'll get some clarification from you on that one before, Steve, minutes. What do you think?
I think that I am kind of on the start of a learning curve here.
Okay.
And I was gonna say exactly the same thing that the gentleman said, but took it right now. But I have one question, and I don't know if this is a question that can be brought up or not, but a couple times today already, I've heard about doing the in our commercial zone sidewalks and everything.
Yes.
At one time, I understand that they actually had a plan to do that. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And at that time, when they were planning to do that, a shop owner that I know very well down there, it was going to actually take away their parking lot. So is it still the same plan that they're looking at, or are they just trying to come up with new ideas?
No, that plan, how can I put it? It was very contentious. There were 3 plans. There was no consensus. A fourth plan was tried to be inserted. That didn't work either. So actually, time ran out and we had to send back the grant money that we had received.
Right.
Marshall, you want to add anything more to that? As
Well, I
the
think yeah, that's a pretty good summary. Yeah.
So I think they're gonna try it again. All I know is they've reached out to someone. I don't know. The details weren't provided to me, but everybody in the room, everybody in town agrees, we would like to have sidewalks. I think that is a consensus. But how? The devil is always in the details anyway. So I think we'll get another proposal. What it's gonna look like, I don't know.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Well, Thorne?
I'd like to have the city consider some way to get better utilization out of the medians downtown. And they're nice to look at, but they do take up a lot of space. If we would want to go after sidewalks again, we probably need the space to do it. Second thing is, I'd like to more seriously look at various parking schemes for downtown too.
Yes. And we did have one brief discussion on that, and we'll come back and attack that again. Anything else, Thorne? Oh,
Excuse me, the one I have to agree with is Dan, is the code enforcement on everything we have out there. They don't have the manpower to address the code enforcement. And if code enforcement can go around and tag things, who's gonna implement what we have there and enforce what we have there? And do we gotta take it to a level where the city has to get involved with it too and use legal to go after these people to abide by the regulations we have? And two is the loss of half a hotel row going north from Chance Oliver North, where they're now becoming long-term stay. What does that do to a tax base, the hotel motel tax, when these are now going to the Days Inn, the latest one advertising, you can stay up to 30 days at their hotel. And they got kitchen units, the whole 9 yards, including the Westerly, which are owned by the same people now. And what is it gonna attract to it? The clientele that's gonna stay there, or how do you attract more people when you only got 3 big motels here on so-called Hotel Row anymore?
Marshall, I know it's complicated, but is there any number that you could shed light on of units that have been converted at this time or planning to be converted to long-term rentals as opposed to hotel motel?
Yeah, we don't have those numbers. The thing that I'm seeing or the discussions that I'm having with the building official more than conversions are the remodels that are going on. We've got, like 4 or 5 of the largest motels in Motel Row under some, multi-million-dollar remodel right now. And so I'm not sure what, of the motels that are left, if there's a bunch of conversion going on. I know the Sands was doing that at one point. I hadn't heard of any other ones, but when they do start making those conversions, those should be coming into the planning department because there's a change in parking requirements. So we should be, checking on that to make sure that they're not going to overload a parking lot by, having, the long-term rentals require 1.5 spaces per unit. And the short-term is a single parking space per unit. So we'll have to check into that and see who's converting without, bringing that before planning.
So that is definitely something that's gonna come up in 2025. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Do they know what's driving that move towards longer term? Is it the transient construction workers, or is it just
I think
people not finding rentals?
well, I would not want to speak for for the folks that are in the process of doing the renovations and perhaps conversions, but a need for rentals.
Affordable.
Yeah, and so I think that's driving the train. Now, is it gonna work? I don't know. Because it depends on who wants to rent and where they want to rent, and if is it a single person doing construction work, or is it a family? My crystal ball's got a crack in it for that one, but I think it does come down to need for rentals as opposed to purchasing of homes. So we'll just see how it works. Anybody else have any thoughts on that one? On what we might see along those lines? Because I do believe there's gonna be some movement on that this year.
Right, and some of it comes down to the price of homes here in Ocean Shores is equivalent to, in a lot of ways, up in the North Marcus and Seattle area. Because of the real estate agents and them are going after the last of us baby boomers that have sold houses up there, so they figured they could raise the prices. And what's that done is it made it, I understand that the educational system has its problems here, but to attract a young person to come here to work and they can't afford to buy a house because it's $600 and some $1,000. They don't make that kind of money to afford it. And that is what's pushing, it's probably pushing some of it is the lower price houses for those that don't make what Marshall does.
Well, when my wife and I moved here a few years ago and bought our property, it was, you know, in this great, you know, we came from Eastern Washington, Wenatchee area. And the real estate market then was bidding wars, cash only, good luck. And this was a bargain over here by a lot, by hundreds of thousands of dollars for the same square footage and everything. And I looked it up because of the time we chose to do that was during permit boom over here, or the boondoggle, I might call it. Where, and there was a lot of construction going on, obviously, it still is. And just kind of curious how that all transpired. I know there's a lot of transient construction workers in town right now. I mean, you see 10 of them on the way here.
Okay,
Can I chime in also?
you certainly may.
The other thing that was brought up by, you know, one of the major hotel operators in one of the council meetings is the level of the quality of what's being offered in the motels. There's only a few, you know, like maybe 3 that she could recommend, even sending one of her customers if she was full. So we've got, you know, all of these, and I think, you know, at the time she was talking, we were entering into some of this heavy remodel that we talked about. And so if you can't command a tourist price for your motel room, the next best thing is to get somebody in there on a monthly basis. And I think there's some of that. They're just trying to get those rooms occupied somehow. And if they don't have the quality to attract a tourist, then it's good enough to attract somebody maybe that's, you know, a transient worker or something like what you guys are talking about. I think that's driving part of it as well.
Is it possible to tell whether these remodels are for long-term or short-term?
It's based on my discussions with the building official. It sounds like they're looking for short-term to get the motel back up to a level that would, you know, appeal to somebody wanting to come in for the weekend or, you know, nightly type.
Yeah, when she was talking about what the rates were going, it was pretty low.
Yeah.
Per room, and that was impacting, you know, the bottom line. They're business people. And I mean, if you're running rooms in the $40 range-ish, that's not exactly what they're looking for. So.
I just met a young couple from Puyallup out on the beach last week and asked them where they were staying. They're staying at the Canterbury. They got a nice little studio room for $100 for 2 nights, right? So $50 a night. I was shocked, quite honestly, because
And this kind of is their
off
off-season.
season, yeah. I threw that into the equation, but even at off-season
Yeah.
prices, that's comparatively to other tourist areas, is the overall price I've seen in town is pretty on the low end.
Okay, so Randy, do you have anything you want to add?
Just what came up in discussion yesterday on this strategic plan, and under the property development, construction goals and policy, actually, marketing goals and policies. is what We've talked about, and you mentioned that there has been some marketing effort and but there hasn't been any visible results that we can put
Nothing tangible yet.
tangible, that we can see, what's the bang for the buck of what you're doing and is there, I'm new to the whole thing, so I don't know if there's anybody in the city government that's kind of managing that or is responsible for it, or if it's all outsourced consulting that's happening, or
Well, there is some monitoring. But yeah, it's been outsourced and we haven't gone a full season yet. So there's nothing tangible that we can put our fingers on. Time will tell.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? I put together a couple of things that I'll share. As I mentioned earlier, complete the connection of Point Brown Multi-Use Trail North to the traffic circle. As well as for safety purposes, add crosswalks on Ocean Shores Boulevard at Pacific Avenue, Ocean Lake Way, and Taurus Boulevard. Also for safety purposes, replace existing flags with flashing lights at the roundabout. I almost had a very tragic encounter there, coming home, dusk. Came around the corner to come down Point Brown, and this gentleman is in a wheelchair, couldn't reach the flags, and off he went. Dark clothing. Fortunately for him, fortunately for me, I was able to slam on my brakes. Fortunately for me, well, I stopped before I hit him, but for me, there wasn't anybody right behind me in the roundabout. And he was literally unable to reach the flags. And it's the first time I've encountered that, daylight or not, but yeah, something there. Gosh, I'd hate to think of a tragedy. So that's on the list. And code 17.34.010. It talks about the district is intended for retail commercial uses. This is talking about the business corridor, providing day-to-day goods and services, financial, professional, personal, commercial services are intended for this district, as well as mercantile, lodging, food, and other common goods and services. All uses and structures are to be of good appearance. This is the area, define good. But if we're talking about marketing Ocean Shores and trying to bring people in, when you turn down the corridor, I think we probably can admit, I don't know if it's of good appearance, but that's what our code says, good appearance. What does that mean? So I'd like for us to at least look well-designed and free of hazards, nuisances, or other unattractable attributes. So right now, there's no incentives or penalties for whatever good appearance is. And then updating parking in commercial buildings, as Thorne has already mentioned, in the business corridor. And then I was asked for us to look at antenna support structures in Ocean Shores. That would help not only cell phones, but also the radio station. Now, this is a long-term project. This isn't going to happen overnight. There's no money. There's really no plan yet. But if we can kick it around and come up with something, we would all, as a community, benefit. And as I've said many times, I'm all for kicking something around, talking about it, see if we can benefit Ocean Shores. So that's all I have on my list. Anybody else want to add?
Last comment you made about the radio antennas, isn't that part of trying to convince the carriers who have the towers closer to Aberdeen than here to get them, convince them to bring towers out here to help?
I believe that's part of the thought process, yeah. But then we have to come up with,
The property for them to put them on.
and how do we do that? How do we execute that? It's a great idea, we'd all benefit. But the devil is in the details. How do we make that happen? And then, of course, where does the funding come? Because it won't be inexpensive. But I think it is worth knocking around and seeing what we can come up with for the betterment of the community. Anything else? Okay, public communication, again, anything, yes, please.
You know where the antennas are that we have in the city right now? Because my computer tells me that they're all over the place, but I can't see them.
I'm going to guess that they're over at Public Works, but I am not 100% sure. Anyone know? Marshall?
We do, we've got a Verizon that has multiple leases on it at the Public Works Yard, and that covers the majority of the city of Ocean Shores. And we've got another one down here at the Grace Harbor PUD yard on Seahorse, and that's another carrier and with multiple leases. One tower will have more than just one on it. Verizon, AT&T, some of the various guys, they'll all lease space on their own tower. So what my long-term experience with the city of Ocean Shores, and I just met with the folks from Seattle's Department of Transportation that does GPS work down here, is they're working at the South End Fire Station trying to get a booster down there because that's a weak spot right around there. So if we could entice a cell provider to put a tower down in the maybe Spinnaker Park or something like that, then you would have overlap between Westport, overlap with Spinnaker, overlap with Ocean Lake Way, and then we've got overlap with the Grace Harbor PUD. So we do have one more spot in town that would be an ideal location for, a cellular tower. Whether we want to see that down there or not, that remains to be seen.
Sure, there's always.
But that, yeah, you gotta weigh the.
So the biggest thing is just convincing the carrier to want to put a tower on city property, which would keep the cost down, but to convince them to come out and want to put a tower out there.
Sure. Yep. And typically that's driven by customer request.
Yeah,
You've
true.
got a bunch of customers in a certain area that's got a dead zone or whatever, they'll complain and whatnot. And then at some point, one of the carriers will pony up and put the first big tower in, and then everybody else jumps on board. So I do happen to know one of the guys that works with Verizon, so I could ask him about that, if they've identified dead spots in Ocean Shores and, if they have any plans within their organization, because he sets up new towers. So I'll ask him about that and see if it.
Thanks.
Has there been any discussion about what I'm thinking of is in Idaho, they have some regulations over there where they put up cell towers and they have to look like a tree. I mean, you drive down the freeway, there's a cell tower, you can't tell the difference between it and the tree that it's sitting in amongst. And it's designed that way to not make that cell towers not be an eyesore. And you kind of alluded to the fact that maybe they didn't want to stick one up in the middle of Spinnaker Park down there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that might be something to look at, but just from my own personal.
That one there is gonna be a difficult, just because of its location when it comes to weather and wind and all that other stuff, you wouldn't be able to put something that had a huge wind, catch like a giant kite,
Yeah.
but they try to keep the profile as narrow as they can to reduce the wind load. Otherwise you have to build such a robust structure.
We don't get wind out there, do we? I just know personally, we're on AT&T right now, and driving out Ocean Shores Boulevard, there's like 2 dead zones, just heading out that stretch of road, and it's a little annoying, so.
There's a dead zone at my house.
Yeah. Yep.
If I didn't have Wi-Fi calling, I wouldn't have a phone.
Wow. Yeah.
Is that right?
Wow.
I know the South End Fire Station, they struggle getting data out of that to the network that we're working on down there.
Well, if that's with the fire department property being involved, you could probably have some city officials or some department help motivate a carrier to come out and put something out there to benefit just the city alone.
Yeah, we've got, so that is like a high-tech data hub for other things that most people aren't even aware of. There's a GPS base station out there that they use for seismic monitoring. We've got a strong motion sensor mounted to the floor of that station.
Oh, really?
And so what we don't want to do is bring something in that would interfere with the comms of that type of,
True.
you know, those are that strong motion sensor on the floor is our first early, it's like the farthest west early warning for an earthquake. So and that's tied into the seismic network
What's his name?
at the South End Fire Station.
I live between the grade school and Bill Ellis Park, and there's a dead zone at my house. So I looked up on the internet, and there's $38 billion available from the federal government in grants for rural areas that have poor service. So is there any way that we could get those grants to improve service in the city?
I would think so. I think that would be something that Becky Leach might be really
I'll
interested
bring
in.
it up to.
Yeah, just let her know. I think that's a great idea because, you know, there is grant money available. You just have to identify it and go for it.
I don't know if it's still available with the change in administration.
Well, it was on the internet, so it's true. So,
Yeah.
no, seriously, I would check with Becky because that sounds like a great idea,
That's what Tim does for her.
you know, so. And
Okay. I'll do that.
they have been successful so far with their grant writer now that's on board.
Yeah.
So I would check with Becky.
They have a meeting like this. It's the Public Works
They
meeting.
do.
And I can mention it to Becky then.
Good, thank you. That'd be perfect. Anything else?
That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you talking a lot about strategic planning, especially for downtown or downtown corridor. And I like that you read kind of the definition of what is supposed to be down there.
Yeah.
I guess myself and I think other people are a little concerned about the recent discussions of it, the food bank moving to that parcel. And I know that quite a few people here are working on the vision for our town. And the University of Washington also has students working on that. And, you know, we've all probably been to Cannon Beach, Leavenworth, and I apologize because I don't know if they would have the car wash, a gas station, a dead gas station on their main road to attract people. And I'm just a little concerned about the food bank. That's an expensive prime piece of property. And my brain also goes off in other tangents like, gee, maybe I've been in the wrong business all my life. I should have just been a nonprofit so I could buy $1 million piece of property. So that concerns me. And I have visions of it maybe just falling apart, just like so many of our other buildings on that.
Well, I appreciate the comment, and you've obviously been reading my notes because I was about to mention that in 5 minutes or so.
Oh, okay.
Just as a reminder, there is a public hearing tomorrow at 10 o'clock concerning the food bank at the convention center. So, you know, please, if you have concerns, I do have concerns as well. Unfortunately, I've got an appointment and I won't be able to attend. But, no, I think the council is doing that. But yeah, thank you for that. Yes, Vicki.
I looked up the parcel and I don't think it's officially sold yet. I don't know if they're just they want to get permits, inspections, you know, just what even your due diligence, you know, when you just didn't buy a house.
Right.
You know, to get the inspection and that. So I didn't know what point in their
Yeah.
road and field they're on right now. But it just kind of bothers me. And yes, the food bank is wonderful. It does a wonderful service, but I just don't think that is the right location for one. And friends of mine have visions of the containers being out there and it's like, well, they didn't beautify that lot after all, did they now? So I don't know what else to do about it.
It had been mentioned, I think Marshall mentioned it at our last meeting. I thought perhaps that we would hear the planning commission have a public hearing, but instead they decided to have it at the convention center, and maybe it's just because they have many more people than what we could handle. I don't know. But anyway, that is tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the convention center. So, yeah, please express.
Because I'm not a witness or anything, I don't know if it's gonna be an official hearing, or like a council, thank you, Marshall.
If I could just for a minute,
Please.
the reason that the food bank is having a hearing is because it's listed as a conditional use in the B1 district. And so that requires that it go before a hearing examiner for public hearing, where we would hear public comment, and that's what tomorrow's hearing is about. The proponents of the project will present hopefully responses to people's questions and, things that that may alleviate concerns. Maybe some of their plan will come out as far as what they, I know they had planned on bringing contractors in to give them quotes to remodel the building that was there. They've talked about moving the triple wide and getting that out of there. I can tell you in our walkthrough that there were 2 buildings in that general area that are headed for the abatement list to address what do you call it? The attractive appearance.
The good appearance.
The good appearance.
Good
yeah.
appearance, yes.
So there's a couple that are being looked at there. But tomorrow's hearing hopefully will answer a whole bunch of those questions, and people with additional concerns can put those out in front of the hearing examiner as well.
Okay, thank you.
It's a public assembly type. So originally, when they made application for that, I had viewed a food bank in my infancy as a planner as something similar to a grocery store, which is a permitted use in the B1. And so I was not going to run it through a conditional use permit to site it over on Anchor Avenue. And after consulting with the city's attorney, they said because the nature of that could be similar to another type of use that may be less attractive or we wouldn't want in the downtown core. You want to run that one because it's not a grocery store, it's a public assembly. Run that through a conditional use hearing so that we can flesh out all the the benefits or detractors and get that out to the public that way. So at that point, we required, even when they were going to cite this on Anchor Avenue, we were required that they went through a public hearing for a conditional use permit there. Same as we're doing tomorrow, to require a public hearing for a conditional use permit to be cited in that location. So.
Okay, thank you. My other question was.
She's got an easy.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Maybe I'm confused. Are there 2 food banks in town? We have senior center passing out food, and then we also have, I thought, the one that's on Anchor next to the thrift store. Are they still active?
Yes, the Anchor Avenue food bank is the main food bank in town. They made partnership with the senior center for some aspects, but the food bank on Anchor Avenue is the one that's proposing to move over to Shoal and Point Brown. So that will be.
Is that a B2 permitted use?
The intersection of Shoal and Point Brown Avenue, where the old Moby Dick's, that parking lot on the corner there.
Yeah, it's by the old dilapidated, the old gas station there.
2 use? That'll be 1, isn't it?
Both public assembly is required to have a conditional use permit in both zones.
Okay, anything else? What comment? No? Okay. Yes, Jane, do you have anything to add, please? Jane, do you have any public comment for us, please?
No, thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you. Okay. Community Development Liaison Report. Marshall, do you have anything for us today?
No, just, planning's processing an inordinate number of permits right now. We've got the building and planning departments both are on track for another record year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know your report at council last meeting was pretty amazing for only 14 days in.
Yeah, it's we're clicking along for sure.
All right, thanks. Planning Commissioner reports? Dan? Cool. Tom? No. Okay. I just have two. One, reminder for the public hearing tomorrow for the food bank at the convention center. And then tonight, I'm on the agenda to report to council on planning commission update, what we accomplished in 2024 and where we're going in 2025. And for that, I have just said that we held our strategic planning meeting this afternoon. So, okay. Future meeting date will be Tuesday, February 11th, 2 p.m. here in the library. Secretary Thorne, would you be able to do secretary duties then? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned, 2:41.